So James Dyson founded his consumer products company 20 years ago in 1992 and now employs over 3,000 people around the world. He is renowned for his innovative designs of his vacuum cleaners, fans and heaters. Japan has a tremendous heritage of innovative engineering through companies like Sony and Honda. Do you think they've lost their way in recent years? And if so, why is that?
Well, the Japanese market is the best market in the world for technology and design. The Japanese really understand technology and really appreciate it. So it's the most exciting market in which to launch new products and new technology. I think perhaps what you're seeing in Japan is these companies that I've always admired enormously, like Sony, particularly Sony and Honda. The founder has died, and they've become very big companies, and they're still remarkable. They still come up with great technology. A lot of patent filing goes on in Japan. Maybe what is missing a bit is some entrepreneurialism. Companies still develop good technology. Maybe the design isn't quite what it was when Honda and Akira Morita were around, which is perhaps a pity. But you have all the ingredients. I think you just need a spirit of entrepreneurialism, risk-taking, to make it happen.
What can Japanese companies do to stimulate innovation?
Well, I don't know enough about the Japanese tax structure or what it's like to start a business in Japan, but I mean there have been some very successful modern businesses started in Japan, good revolutionary ones in banking and manufacturing. So I think you encourage it fiscally, encourage it by giving the right sort of tax incentives, research and development tax relief, entrepreneurial tax relief, all those sort of things, and investor tax relief. Because developing new technology is very risky. You have to acknowledge that. So you really have to incentivize people to develop it. It's long term, it's risky, it's very expensive. So I think you have to have the right sort of structure to encourage it. And then I think you do have to encourage individuals. There are companies, and Sony and Honda are very good examples of those sort of companies that do develop great new technology. But a lot of new technology and risk-taking happens because an individual wants to do it and drives the business through. So I think you need to encourage that as well. And the interesting thing actually about both Honda and Sony is they're both engineers who started them. And that's a great tradition in Japan. So it's a pity that isn't happening more. I think in many ways the kind of problems you've got in Japan are the same ones that we have in England. Is that once a society becomes rich and established, it tends to drift away from the thing that made them rich. They lose sight of what drove the economy and excited people. So they get more interested in politics and the arts and the media and the service industries, and less interested in more long-term, substantial and harder things.
Can you teach innovation to young engineers, or is it an individual spark? Is it innate?
It's innate. We employ lots of graduates, from university graduates and researchers, postdoctors, postdoctoral researchers. And you just give them, allow them to develop their technology, allow them to come up with ideas. And when you see them, take them and run with them, take the risk with them. And we love new ideas, we love taking risks. It's what I enjoy doing. We want to change things. This is a completely new format of vacuum cleaner. It's a complete departure from the type of canister vacuum cleaner that we've normally made. But we love taking that sort of risk. There's no market for this. We will create the market. And we love producing things that are very different and work better. And so that's what we like doing. We develop electric motors. So this very high-speed electric motor we've developed replaces this much older state of the art, but heavy, much slower, much less efficient motor. So, but these are young engineers who've developed all of these things. They're not all my ideas, they're the ideas of our young engineers, and we've developed now quite a large group of people who want to develop new technology electric motors, are all straight from university, or straight from research at university. And I get excited by what their ideas are, and so I'm encouraging them to develop them and make them work. So allowing them to take risks and making sure that what they do goes into production, nurturing it and making it happen. That's all you have to do, because young people have that innovation and desire to change the world. You've just got to use it.
Your designs are not only innovative, they are also very elegant. Is elegance a requirement for an innovative design?
Well, for me, design, because I trained as a designer and then worked as an engineer to learn engineering. For me, the technology and the engineering come first, but design should be integral with everything you do. There's no point in making things that are ugly. So just make everything you do as elegant, as well designed, and as pleasurable to use, and as long lasting as you can. But the technology and the performance are by far the most important things.
You seem to have a soft spot for robots. There was the DC-6 back 10 years ago, and just like the Japanese. What do robots mean for you?
Well, robotics has happened really in production. So getting very precise, accurate production of mass production, making sure that things are done perfectly. So there has been a wonderful space for it there. Using it in the home is much more difficult because the tasks are much more complex, and they're iterative. You have to learn things, and then you have to be artificially intelligent. And that's much harder. And moving around the home is much more difficult than static mass production, where robots can easily do what they have to do.
Dyson is a very innovative design company. How far down into the design do you have to go? Are you going to be a chip design company? Are you going to be designing batteries? How far do you go?
Well, we're not a chip design company, but we are investing in things that could be the substrate for chips. So we're heavily into developing materials which will enable technologies, and we're looking very far into the future. We're looking 15, 20 years in the future, because you have to.
15 to 20 years is an almost impossible horizon for looking at research and development. How can you see what you will need then?
No, it's not an impossible horizon at all. And if you're in the jet engine business, you're thinking even further ahead than that. And you have to, because you've got to develop materials that enable you to do what you want to do, the ambitions you have. You've got to develop chemistry, you've got to develop technology, you've got to do all of these things. And you really do have to think that far ahead. Most obviously in batteries, but it is true in other fields as well.
How can Europe keep its innovative spark?
If you look at the numbers of patents being filed in Japan and Europe and Britain, and I'll leave out the United States because they are significantly increasing the number of patents they're filing. It's not that we're filing fewer patents. In fact, slightly the reverse is true. The problem, perhaps, is that our competitors, like China, Korea, and India, are filing an increasing number of patents. So I think the problem is that we'll be left behind. I think at the moment, Japanese patents and European patents are of very high quality, as are American patents, whereas Chinese patents at the moment are of less high quality. But that will change. It will change because they're producing very large numbers of engineers, as are India, as is Singapore, as is Korea. So I think the problem is not that so my point is really that we can't afford to stay as we are. we've got to redouble, or more than redouble, our efforts to develop new technology, train engineers and train scientists in order to at least maintain our world positions.
So is what you're saying stimulating innovation in Europe, that ends up being a numbers game then?
I think there are several things we need to do, but I think the first and most basic thing is to increase the numbers of engineers and scientists that we're producing, because we're producing far too few. We're underproducing by more than 50% the numbers we need in Britain. And I think the same is true in Japan, and I know the same is true in Germany, and of course in the United States as well. So whereas I think Japan produces about 120,000 engineering graduates a year, China's producing well over 500,000, and India probably about 1 million. Iran and Mexico each produces twice as many engineering graduates as Britain, and the Philippines produces twice as many engineering graduates as Britain. So we're underproducing, and industry is short of engineers, and it's very hard to find them. So that's the first problem. I think the second problem is that governments need to recognise that in order to win world trade in the future, you've got to develop better technology than that produced by our competitors. Because if you can't, you've got nothing to export. And your wealth is pretty well aligned, as far as I see, with your exporting capability.
Patents are an important way of protecting innovation and stimulating innovation, and yet it seems in recent years they've also been used to stifle innovation. What's your view of the importance of patents?
If you don't have patents, you won't have innovation. If someone takes the risk of spending a lot of money and a lot of time developing technology and a lot of money going to production and making a success of it, if people are able to copy it, no one will conduct innovation. No one will do research and development, because it's a very expensive business, and if someone can just copy it, no one can afford to do it. So I see patents as a way of increasing competition, not least because if someone has discovered a way of doing something and has patented it, and you want to compete with them, you have to develop your own way of competing with them, develop your own technology, not copy their technology. So I get very depressed and alarmed when I hear that people have copied technology, infringed a patent and got away with it. Not because I feel sorry necessarily for the patentee, but I do of course, but more because I know that that's going to encourage plagiarism and discourage innovation.